Hi there. We are here for Draft B Noob Analysis. I'm Electric, and with me
And
I've got Mr. Weiss. Hello, Mr. Weiss.
why, hello, Miss Electric.
And we're gonna just talk about all of Draft B's teams and why they all suck ass.
Exactly that.
So we can just start with the Snowman's team. He's got Um, Whimsicott, Goldigo, Arcanine, Hydreigon, Electros, Mienshao, Skarmory, Landorus, Gudra, Crawdon, and Tentacruel. And I think it's a. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. I think that it's a good defensive team with bad defensive stats.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's got a great fantasy core going on and good things to cover for each other, like Landers and Gudra definitely cover a lot of each other's weaknesses. But the stats on most of the other Mons, pretty mid, very
Mhm.
exploitable.
Yeah, like looking at the type chart, everyone was freaking out about him having full resistances across the board. He's got the magic green stripe in the draft document. But then when you look at the actual stats, like his highest defense is Skarmory, which is really good defense. But after that, it's really only Gudra at base 100, and then you've got Golden Go at base 95. And I mean, Golden Go can live a hit or two, but it's not exactly what I call a defensive monster.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if Golden Go is more than likely going to be built offensively. Same with
Mm-hmm.
Hydreigon. Same with Lando. Like they can totally have a defensive build if they want to lean into it, just for the typings alone. That being said, they have a lot of good combos here, like Lando Gudra or Disquake with Electros and Lando T. I like all that. And beat up from Whimsicott onto Arcanine, as well as like I said earlier, doing a cool Dragon's Cheer from Hydreigon onto Golden Go. Ignore
Mm-hmm.
all the stat drops and just keep critting. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think any team that has Whimsicott is automatically a good team, just because Whimsicott is kind of like you can definitely make an argument that it is the best Pokemon in a draft setting. Um, I don't know that I like agree with it, but you can certainly make the argument. And so I think
Yeah,
I think
it's
I
like a
assume that Whimsicott was his number one overall pick, and it makes sense.
it does so much for any team, really.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, good. It's a good team. I just think that people are a bit overrating the defensive value of it.
Right. Its bark is worse than its bite defensively.
Yeah. Um, where would you put this as far as like a tier?
Well, we can start doing that now, or I can say where I place it at the end.
Yeah,
Because I've got my top three picks, I've got a favorite pick, and I've got a scariest pick. They're all
yeah.
different.
Let's save it for the end then, so we can examine everyone's.
Perfect.
Um, you have anything else that you want to add for this, or you want to move on?
Aside from Whimsicott, if that goes down early, I don't see a ton of great speed control on this team. Yeah, you've got Electros with maybe, Electroweb. Yeah, you've got Lando with Bulldoze. But again, this team defensively can fall apart pretty quick. So I expect this to be a very hyper offensive team.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, Skarmory and Hydreigon can set Tailwind, but I mean that's not really. If your Hydreigon is setting Tailwind,
Hmm.
then I don't know what else. It feels like there's a lot better things that Hydreigon could be doing other than that.
Right.
So, but I mean, you can certainly catch people off guard with that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, he's really not got much of a trick room mode at all, which is fine. You don't need one, but it's certainly something that other people can take advantage of if they have the right team comp.
Certainly. Yeah.
Um, let's move on to Lofus. Lofus has got the rain mode. So across all four drafts, I noted that there were three teams that had the Urshifu, Archaludon, and Pelipper core. There was Lofus, there was Seth, and there was my own team. And I'm feeling like this might be the weakest of those three.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with that. Not saying that it's a weak team by any
Oh, absolutely,
by any
absolutely
stretch of
not.
the imagination, because this team goes absolutely bananas. I
Yeah.
think this has one of the most insane offensive capabilities throughout
Hmm.
this whole draft, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
I should clarify by that. I mean, I think it's the weakest rain team, but it's certainly not a weak team overall.
oh yeah, absolutely. I just feel personally, even with the wide guard on Torterra and Pelipper,
Hmm.
the team does not want to take a lot of spread moves. Like spread moves just completely cripple this team, I think. Their
Yeah.
defensive capabilities aren't fantastic, I would say. But
Yeah,
that doesn't
this
really matter if you're, throwing out a bunch of rapid strikes in the rain plus helping hand. So
yeah, he's got some good like defensive, physical defensive stuff, but there's nothing over base 90 special defensive. And those base
well,
90s are Pachirisu and Colossal, who aren't exactly known for living a whole lot of hits.
and
So,
there's some anti-synergy with Chin Pao there, who's going to lower their defense anyways.
yeah, that's true. So, I mean, I personally think that Urshifu Qianpao is like horrifying and similar to Whimsicott. Having Sableye on your team means that you can do a lot of really funny stuff. Um, I just I'm thinking back to last season where I feel like Lofus he had a Sun team and I feel like he forced the Sun mode a lot, and I think that didn't help him as far as like how well he was doing. So if he gets to a point where he's trying to force the rain mode in a similar way, I'd be a little bit concerned. But if he's willing to leave Pelipper on the bench for a few games, that could be where it's really scary because you have to respect the rain, but I don't think that he needs to focus on bringing it every set.
Yeah, I agree. If he completely, keyholes into that and only does the rain,
Mm-hmm.
I suspect a bad time. But if you fake the rain half your matches, oh my god, the terror
Yeah,
of is Pelipper in the back? Is Pelipper in the back? I love it. It's a lot of mind games.
yeah. Um, it's also I'm looking at it now. It's also a lot slower than a lot of Lofus's teams tend to be, or maybe I'm just remembering the one where he drafted like everything was over base 100 and this is a pretty slow team by his standards.
Yeah, comparatively. I am excited though to see what Colossal wants to do. There's a lot that can proc it, and being on a rain
Hmm.
team, there's like it's just begging to be hit by a water type move. So I
Yeah,
really want to see that steam engine with the terastallization going off. It's gonna be
yeah,
spicy.
yeah. Something like a absorb bulb. Uh, you know, Colossal is really disappointing now that it doesn't have its residual damage move from
Yeah.
Dynamax, but I mean, I think it's still pretty funny to see
Well, it
pulled
still
off.
has one of the fastest rock slides,
That's true.
so that could be really, really annoying.
Yeah. Let's see who's next. We got TD Kale. Um, you were talking to liking the all the weather options on this one.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of fun shenanigans going on here. I don't want to give up, TDK's entire plan, I guess, but I like the Torn for setting hail for Bexcalibur, the water or the rain for water spout on Blastoise, the sunny day for eruption on Typhlosion, and then I love the Wheezing Galar, the mind games of is it Misty Surge? Is it neutralizing gas? Did you
Yeah.
miss your move because I'm actually levitate and a freak? Like what happened there?
So
That would be amazing. I want to see that with Sceptile. And then obviously, the two combos in the back. You've got the Clefairy Regigigas, the tried
mhm.
and true classic. And then you've got, of course, Rabska and Alolan Golem. So he's
Yeah.
gonna blow up, galvanize, get a lot of damage, and then come back. That's insane. I love the telepathy on that thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think telepathy makes a lot of really good teams that want to use all those good spread moves.
Hmm.
Um, I will say for the wheezing thing, so in theory you should always know what ability wheezing has because neutralizing gas gives a message at the start when it gets sent in, so you'll always know if something has neutralizing gas. Misty Surge obviously always sets the Misty terrain, and then if you get no message and no terrain, then it's Levitate. So if you use a ground move into it and it's Levitate, I feel like that's your own fault. Um, but but otherwise,
True,
yeah,
but I'm just thinking maybe he keeps it, neutralizing gas most of the season, and then finds a
yeah.
bad ground type matchup and throws in a levitator out of nowhere.
Oh
That could be
yeah,
spicy.
I'm a huge fan of seeing that. I think it's a pretty solid team overall. It's not like one of the best, but there's some good stuff that you can do. Like we didn't even mention Shell Smash and Clefairy next to each other. That
That's
can
true.
that could hurt someone real bad if they're not prepared for it.
And maybe
Um,
I'm not a believer. I just don't really know what the Bisharp's doing here. Like contextually, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but I'd love to see what he does with it.
I mean, it can do some stuff with super strong sucker punches and that kind of thing, but otherwise, yeah, it feels a little bit out of place for sure.
Yeah. But I guess it pairs well with like Wheezing and Baxcalibur for a fantasy core.
Yeah. I get he could one thing he could do is explode the wheezing as well, not just the golem.
This is
His,
this is true.
he has
Neutralizing gas or
oh
Misty Terrain, I mean.
Misty Terrain, Misty
Yeah.
Explosion next to Rapska. I
Hell
mean,
yeah.
that is an option that could exist.
I could see it happen just because of the Unburdened Sceptile. It would be a really cool play.
That would be, yeah. Um, let's see.
Oh, you know what? Before we move
Uh,
on, I'm just going to point out real quick. It dawned upon me. Clefairy next to Gigas is also not as super duper as I made it out to be. I think it's mostly Wheezing next to
it's wheezing,
Gigas.
yeah.
But yeah. But I was like, wait, I'm thinking of Gen 8, where Fairy Gigas is fucking killer.
Yeah. I mean, you still got to have the wheezing out next to Gigas, but okay. Who's next? Pikachu. This this I think if it's not the best team in this draft, it's certainly one of the top two or three. It's
Absolutely agree.
I think the only aspect of it that I'm not a super huge fan of is the speed control. He's only got one option for Tailwind, and it's Kilowattrel, which is like fine, but it's not the best. And then his only Trick Room options are Fluttermane and Gothorita, which again are fine, but not the best.
Right.
But other than that, this is a absolutely terrifying thing to look at.
hmm I'm excited to see what he ends up doing with the Orthworm, just because I'm
Mm-hmm.
a strong believer of Orthworm. Obviously, next to Great Tusk will be very, very strong, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. I love the Ogerpon for Defiant too. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
messed up.
Yeah, and this is the pure grass Ogerpon, right? It's not one of the mask ones. So he does
Correct.
get
This
to
is
have it hold an item, and he does get to try a bunch of fun things with it.
That's true. And
Yeah.
earlier I was talking about how this is probably my most insane or this is the most insane of the fantasy cores with the
Hmm.
with the Steel Dragon Fairy. But I
Right.
just now realized he's also got a great Fire Water Grass.
No, he
Like
does.
like
Like
Chi Yu, fantastic fire type. What? And then Lapras, a great tanky water type. That's it.
mhm.
That's all you really need.
I don't I
So yeah,
don't
this is
know
a
how
strong
much I
team.
agree with that. I don't know how good Lapras is in
Really?
this.
I think Lapras is gonna be awesome. It's got a lot of utility and can get very bulky. But
Yeah.
that's my opinion, of course.
Yeah. I do think that this might be the best fantasy core that we've seen though. So
hmm
he's definitely got that.
Hands down.
Yeah. What else? He doesn't have I don't think he has any guaranteed crits onto the Tauros, so he doesn't really have the
Well, does Lapras have Frost Breath?
Does it? I will look that up real fast. Maybe it does.
Because if not, Regidrago maybe could Dragon Cheer onto somebody. But
Red.
that would be silly.
That's a bit too much setup, I think. Lapras
Yeah.
Lapras does not get Frost Breath.
Oh shoot. Then yeah, no,
It
you're right. I don't
it
know
it
how.
did last gen and then it lost it this gen, so that's disappointing.
I
Um,
bet you it's because of Tauros.
yeah, the yeah, I don't see anything else that can activate it. He doesn't. He also doesn't have like I guess Fluttermane. Fluttermane has Perish Song, right? But there's not
Mhm.
like I guess I'm just wondering what the other than general being able to trap things. I don't really know what the Gothorita is doing as far as like obviously trapping itself is really good, but he doesn't really have anything that's taking a huge amount of advantage of that trapping. So,
I agree. Maybe
but
like maybe there's some nonsense I don't see because
yeah,
Gothorita, my understanding, is just there for fake out, trapping, and trick room, and that's not like the coolest thing coming from a Gothorita, you know?
hmm
But hey, we'll see what happens. Maybe it was a forced like, okay, you know what? Panic pick. Let's spend the point somewhere else, and Gothorita at least does the job, right?
right. Um. All right. Let's move on to so Zenitama. I assume that's how you pronounce this. This is giving vibes of like Final Fantasy forums back in 2020 or back in 20 uh God, what are years? 2002 is what I'm trying to say.
Oh wow, yeah, 20 years ago, I got you.
Yeah. Um there's some cool stuff on this, but it does feel pretty disjointed. I
Yeah, I
the
agree. It almost looks like there's two teams wanting to happen and not quite merging together.
like the psychic terrain stuff is good, but like so I don't know. The psychic terrain stuff is good, but it's like half of a team, and then there's a bunch of flying types that don't get protected by the psychic surge,
Right.
and
There's just too many conflicting things. Like
mm-hmm,
Comfey wants to use the +3 priority to get a lot of cool stuff off. And
right.
yeah, it can still help its own team, but it can't click Draining Kiss into the opponents because of the terrain. And like you mentioned, Landorus, Zapdos Scowler, and what is it, Azelf? None of those are benefiting anything from the terrain, really. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what goes on here. I do like that it's focused on kind of like a grass fighting, or not grass, wow, ghost fighting and like fighting or psychic kind of thing. It's those are weird types that if you don't have the exact defenses, you kind of just
Yeah.
get blasted. I also really like the super sweet syrup plus Landorus lead. That is going to be killer. Or even like against like with a Sinistcha, because Sinistcha can technically miss a lot of its moves too. So I don't know. There's some cool stuff going on. I want to see what the game plan was because some of it does not really feel like it goes together.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, obviously, all of those flying types that we mentioned with the psychic terrain, they can still Terra, and as long as it's not flying Terra, they'll take the what's it called? They'll take the terrain benefit. Except for
Right.
Azelf,
Right.
I do find it very
Yeah, he's
funny.
stuck.
I do find it very funny that Azelf is was one of the only things to get expanding force before the last DLC, and then it still can't really use it because it has levitate.
That's pretty messed
So,
up.
I mean, maybe we'll see Iron Ball as Elf this season.
That'd be hilarious.
I'm I'm
But
trying
yeah, I
to
mean,
I'm
other
trying
than
to
that, I
yeah, go
do
for
think
it.
this is a very scary hyper offense team. Like if you're coming at me with Choice Scarf, Zapdos Scowler, you've got Iron Crown, and then in female Indeedee
hmm
and Sinistra, that's so much redirection, and you're just gonna start punching holes in things. So
Yeah, that
if
is.
you can get rid of his redirection and healing with the Sinistra, I actually at first I thought this was kind of Trick Roomy. I'm now starting to see it's probably anti Trick Room. It's just
hmm
fast and shuts down Trick Room if they want to do it.
Yeah,
But again, there's still some mons where I'm like, I want to know what they do.
Yeah, that is. I gotta ask. Do you know what Ice-Q does? I'm not
Um,
really sure.
yeah, so basically Ice-Q can use Belly Drum to get
Is it
+6 attack,
okay?
and then with the Ice Face protects it from taking that first hit of damage. So I could see that like, okay,
But
you got
it's only
the
physical
terrain.
damage, though, right?
Correct. It's only
Yeah.
physical damage. So it's like it's this could work, but you've got a lot. You'd have to put so much investment. You'd have to get the redirection. You got to get the Swords Dance, or not the Swords Dance, the
Belly
Belly Drum
drum.
off,
Yeah.
and then like yeah, you can heal it again with Sinistra and like Citrus Berry. It could work, but it could also not. And
Yeah.
so I don't know.
It.
I
Although I
I
mean,
just know that
it's a bottom tier, and so one game where it might work is kind of all you need from your bottom tiers, isn't it? So
that and with terrestrialization, honestly, it being an ice type does not matter at
that's
all. It can turn into anything,
yeah.
get a nice defense boost, take a tiny hit, break its face, get a plus a billion speed, and then get a bunch of attack. It could work. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Drops his team. Drops is next. Um, now that it has, I accidentally input Porygon into here instead of Porygon Z. So now that there's Porygon Z, this might be the most like heavily offensive team in this draft. I think that's
I, I
reasonable.
I would agree with you. Having a Ogerpon Cornerstone, Porygon Z, Mamo, and Feraligatr, like they only really want to do offense. I know Ogerpon can kind of be like defensively oriented.
Hmm.
But let's be honest, when you have a base 100 high crit rate rock move that doesn't miss, you want to abuse that.
Exactly. I know that Confused was talking a lot about Ogerpon being really nice last season, and I think that Drops kind of got the inspiration from him for that. Um, does he have a? He doesn't have a beat up user to activate Annihilate. Does he have any other multi hits that are notable? I don't see anything off. I mean,
I
maybe
mean,
like
Mamoswine could use like it
Ice
would probably
Spear.
kill. Yeah, exactly. With the loaded dice, I don't like that at all. But it's a
No,
move.
it sure is. I mean, if he wants to already Terra Fire Annihilate, but he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't really have the Rage Fist activation
Hmm.
on here unless there's something that we're not seeing. I mean, like maybe a. Is there anything with Brutal Swing or something like that? I don't know. Um, but
Potentially, but nothing multi hit. Yeah.
I do like it though. I mean the tailwind from Latios is maybe a little bit weak as far as getting your own speed control up, but everything else is actually kind of cracked.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. Maybe he had to pick War Turtle because of points. I'm not a huge fan of that being on the team because there's already a Feraligatr, and you're really only getting Fake Out out of the War Turtle. Plus maybe Helping Hand and Icy Wind. That being said,
Does War Turtle get Shell Smash? Could we see that?
yeah, that would be awesome. I was gonna say Klefki setting up screens, Klefki with Thunder Wave. That's really cool. I love Mamoswine Rotom Disquake. That's just the bread
Mhm.
and butter Gen 4. I love it. And then honestly, even though Annihilate doesn't have any support, he's such an A tier mon that he's just solid. Just being
Yeah.
here for
Oh,
Defiant
yeah.
potentially could be like a game changer. Because I would hate to hit an Intimidate into that team. Because I mean, there's Mamo, there's Ogre, and there's Feraligatr, right? So you really want to Intimidate against this.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one of those teams. Like, there's some teams that have defined cores, and you kind of know when you look at the preview, okay, I'm definitely going to see this, this, and this. And it'd be
Right.
surprising if they don't bring those, whatever those mons are. It'd be surprising if there's any games this season that those get left off the bench. I don't know that there's any of that for this. It's a team of very solid Pokemon that don't necessarily have to show up for the team to function well.
Right. Like you could
Like,
take 3 from the front, 3 from the back, you're solid. 3 from the
mm-hmm,
middle, 3 from the front, you're still good. It doesn't even matter. There's a lot of good stuff here. It just doesn't glue together in the same way you'd expect.
yeah, but I think I like it a lot. And I
I
know
will
I give
say,
them, yeah.
I think Drops is going out on a limb here for Arbok. I gotta say, I
I
love Arbok. I love it so much, but that thing is gonna be Booty cheeks bananas for sure. There's no
I
way that thing's gonna kill.
so I know that Arbok is the is kind of the mascot, but let's see. He was posting Arbok calcs in chat recently. Let me see if I can. Um, so let's see. Arbok Gunkshot kills Ogerpon Wellspring. And it Arbok lives Urshifu Rapid Strikes, or lives Surging Strikes. It lives Fluttermane Shadow Ball if it's got specs. Um, it can live Photosynthesis Great Tusk Earthquake. I mean, I don't know that I'm a Arbok believer, but there's definitely some calcs where it kind of works. Or
I
maybe I'm just drinking the copium a little bit too much.
I mean, hey, I smoke copium all day long. I just know that Arbok is too frail in a doubles sort of environment.
That's
Like,
true.
if this was a singles type thing, I would actually be for the Arbok because I love Intimidate Arbok with
Mhm.
Coil. But I just the takes way too much damage, not enough healing to go around. Maybe with Latios Heal Pulse, like this could work. But
I don't
I
know. I don't know that you want to be using your heal pulses on an Arbok.
yeah, you see, so there we go. So exactly that. I love you drops, but Arbok is it's not the snake you wanted, I think.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I mean,
Oh
I
well.
it is. I mean, it's a D tier. It's got to show up
That's
once.
true. That's true.
So
Yeah, just
I
for
can't.
intimidate.
I can't. I don't feel like if it was in C tier for some reason and we could brag on it being a high tier that he took, then yeah. But I just can't bring
But it's just
myself to.
here. Yeah.
I
I
can't.
will say though,
Mhm.
overall, Drops' team kind of lower in power, but great utility.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
Arbok with Glare, fuck that. I'm scared.
Okay, next up, Eevee. So I people were joking about all the dinosaur Pokemon, but this is actually terrifying.
Oh, this is hugely
It's
terrifying. They're stuck with the sun, but you know what? That's okay. They've got sleep. They've got great speed tiers going on here.
hmm
Lots of free damage. Lots of great type synergy. I love the fire, water, grass, and honestly, even like the worst quote unquote Pokemon on this team are still fantastic. There's Jumpluff. There's Ditto. There's
hmm
Magnezone. Like Makalola. These are all great Pokemon.
yeah. So I'd say the one downside to it is it definitely feels like a team that if you have a way to get rid of the sun, um, it falls apart a little bit harder than you maybe want it to. Like if the opponent's team picked up like Altaria or something with Cloud9, which although I don't think we've seen that in any of Draft B's teams, so that may not be something they have to worry about. But like the neutralizing gas team, um, that
Right.
shuts
The
this down
Whimsicott
really hard.
team, the Pelipper team, the
Yeah.
Torn team. There's a lot of things that could it could die from. But I mean, you do get like just free everything just when the sun's up. So the
hmm
fact they have to play your game and stop your sun is, I think, a really big deal.
Definitely. And if you can keep the sun up and you get um, double dinosaur out there, that's kind of horrifying.
Hmm.
What else? Like Howl onto Gyarados or a Hariyama. That's disgusting. Just
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of really good stuff here. I want to give a special shout out to Ditto because I think that Ditto on your opponent's team forces you to build your team in certain ways that you probably wouldn't if it was any other random D tier line. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of other D tiers that really work team building in that sort of way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Ditto is one of those mons that like its sheer presence changes the whole game.
hmm
Because if you see it on their team, absolutely not are you going to bring your setup sweepers immediately. You want to scout them
Yeah,
out. You want to see if they even care about Ditto. But by that time, they may have won the game. I love the mind games it comes with.
yeah, it's absolutely like it definitely forces it definitely forces people to play in a certain way, and I think that that can definitely play to Eevee's advantage if he's willing to take advantage of it.
Totally.
Um, there's not a whole lot of things that the what's some of the other niche stuff. There's not a whole lot of stuff that Muck wants the power of alchemy absorb, except for maybe like chlorophyll off of Jumpluff.
Right.
But
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
because it could memento and like give. Yeah,
mhm.
exactly. It could memento something, pass that on to a lowland Muck, and maybe Muck will have enough offensive capabilities. But
Although Alolan Muck is not, it's only base 50 speed. I don't think it's quite fast enough that it can really take advantage of chlorophyll, even with like max speed Jolly.
it could
Um,
do chlorophyll tailwind
that's true. You know, something like
if you
that.
really want to go so fast.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry,
true. That's true. Um, yeah,
but
I think it's fun. I think this is definitely a fun team, and I like the theming. Um, and I think it could surprise some people and cause some damage.
absolutely,
The
especially with Hariyama in the back. I'm scared of that one.
Yeah, the big ground weakness is a little bit questionable now that I'm looking at it. But
Yeah,
I mean, other
there's
than
no
that,
real way aside from Terra. There's no real way for them to escape it.
yeah. I mean, there's like rage powder on Jumpluff, but if you're the problem with rage powder obviously is things are immune to it that aren't immune to follow me, so there's
Right,
ways to
right.
avoid it. But I think it's a really solid team overall.
Super fun draft team.
Hmm.
Props to them.
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely have to have a little bit of fun with your draft, and I think that this one definitely accomplishes it. Oops. Let's see. Moving on to the one of the other scary teams in this draft. This is Kearney's team. Um, I mean, this is disgusting.
Yeah, this is truly gross. There's like not a single Pokemon on here where I think it's a bad Pokemon.
Oh no,
It's
absolutely.
everything does its job. Everything does its job well. I mean, Bruxish is not the coolest Pokemon in the universe, but having the utility of the Dazzling and then also having the
Hmm.
raw power of Choice Band Strongjaw, that hurts. That actually hurts a lot.
Yeah,
So I'm excited for a lot of the stuff on here. I mean, Roaring Moon Tailwind plus Bramble. You've got
yeah.
Trick Room if you want plus Roaring Moon, Blood Moon.
Living.
A lot of moons actually. Huh, interesting, two moons. But
Yeah. No,
but yeah.
it.
Oh, and of course the recent winner. We've got a Alolan Ninetales plus Articuno.
Oh yeah, definitely. If we don't see sheer cold out of you, Kearney, at least once, I'm going to be disappointed. Just as long as it's not against me during playoffs.
Correct.
Um, but no, this is really good. I do like the having the Ogerpon and next to the freeze dry Pokemon. Getting those off of the board, and so you don't have to deal with them during the season. Whether that was Carney's intention or not, I like the pick.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
just just because not having to deal with that sort of stuff makes your life a lot easier over the course of the season.
hmm I mean, that's kind of why I picked King Gambit right after I picked my Fluttermane. I didn't want people to
Yeah,
pick it against me.
yeah, that's why I picked Rillaboom after having Urshifu. It's a very legitimate draft strategy to not,
Absolutely.
you know. There are some weaknesses across the team. Like there's a little bit of Dark and Ghost issue, but I think generally it's pretty solid.
There's
Um,
kind of a steel issue going on here too.
that's
Like
true.
steel
Yeah,
runs through basically everything but the water types. But that's okay.
yeah, yeah. So it could run into some issues with like the Golden Go team. Um,
Actually, I feel
but
like the issues might come offensively. It looks like they hit a lot of the same moves. So maybe that might
yeah,
be an issue. Like a lot of strong rock, a lot of strong ice, and then some strong like what do you
yeah.
want to get? Some psychic here, but aside from that,
I mean, Ursaluna has ground and normal.
mhm.
Roaring Moon has dragon and dark and flying if it's acrobatics. Water and grass from Ogerpon, fire and ghost from Skeledirge. I mean, it's got a good amount of coverage, but yeah, there is a little bit less type diversity offensively, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
And it's not like any of them are. It's not like we have just like Generation One move sets where the only thing you get are normal moves and your stab types if you're lucky.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Yeah. So I and also Terra exists. So I think this is
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
generally very strong, very scary team.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Um. Let's see. Trickster is up here. Yeah, I think you had thoughts about this one.
Yeah, this one's kind of funny. So I initially believed they were trying to make two cores here. I thought they were going for Fantasy Core plus Firewater Grass. Maybe
Hmm.
they were, and they've achieved it. I don't like the Fantasy Core too much, but the Firewater Grass Core plus Sneasler, those are rockin' mons. I really
Yeah.
like that. I think that this one has a great mix of offense and utility. Not too defensively oriented, even with like a Gliscor on the team and a Rotom Wash.
Hmm.
But like the field control, the explosiveness of like, let's say they start Boom Burst Noivern next to Spectrier. Like why how do you stop that? Like there's so many things that could happen. It's very diverse, lots of good coverage. I like this team, but it's a little it feels like it got the curse of the draft, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it almost looks like these some of these picks were second or third picks and not necessarily their preferred pick.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm interested to see how some of this stuff plays out. Um, like I'm hoping to see like Contrary, Terra Stellar, and Amorous at some point because I've been really interested in seeing how that works in draft.
Hmm.
Um, and I agree. The Firewater Grass with Rillaboom, Ensign, and Rotom, that might be the strongest core in the entire, at least in Draft B. I haven't looked at the other drafts very hard, but I don't think I've seen one that's stronger than that. Um, so it feels like a very good top half of the draft, and then maybe could have been a little bit better at the bottom half. Like there's
Right.
only one Trick Room option, and it's Delphox, which really wants to be imprisoning Trick Room more than setting it up. Um, it's a good team. I just don't know if it couldn't have been better.
Yeah, it's got a very strong mode, but
Hmm.
maybe only one mode. Like I don't, you know what I mean? You know what's happening
Yeah,
when you see the team when it's coming against you, which is not necessarily an issue, but who knows? Maybe with a name like Trickster, this is a huge ruse. Maybe we're gonna get absolutely blown out of the water, and this has nothing to do with the Firewater Grass, and they're just a great, combo.
I I I do know. Like there's the. I think part of the issue that I'm looking at is that there's no real support options. Like there's no redirection on this team. There's only a couple of screens options, and Delphox and Rotom are not the greatest screen setters on this team. So
Yeah, looks like
you're
some of your support will be what? Spectrier and Incin and Rilla?
you're kind of relying a lot on stuff like your fake outs, and I mean that's good, but I don't know. I think there could have been some better options as far as team building goes.
Yeah, if there
Um,
was a single prankster user on this team, it would be leagues better, I think.
yeah, having that faster option really would be nice. Um, and then last but not least, we've got Jordan. I think this is pretty scary. I don't know that I'd call it on the top tier of scary, but right below that. I really like what he's going on with this as far as like it feels very bulky offense next to screens and Morgrim. I'm a huge Morgrim believer, so I think Morgrim honestly really ties this together in a way that is setting Jordan up for success.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is bulky offense to the
Mhm.
T. You've got dual screen, you've got healing, you do have different speed options if you want them. You've got some
Yeah.
fast Pokemon, some mid, and some slow. I like it. You've got Trick Room and Tailwind. It's not bad at all.
Mhm.
Um, the shenanigans with Zoroark is going to be fantastic. And this is probably the best mixture of fantasy and firewater grass. Like all of the Pokemon complement
Yeah.
each other so well. Now he is kind of stuck, in my opinion, kind of playing closer to Trick Room just because Greedent getting the getting the belly drum, Cresselia being so much better in Trick Room, and
Right.
the Iron Hands being so strong. But aside from that, this is a cool team. I like a lot about it.
I mean, he's definitely very. I would say he's definitely a bit more trick room oriented than a lot of the teams that we've seen so far. But I think because of that, you know, how many of the teams have we looked at so far and we said, "Wow, this doesn't really have a great trick room mode." So
Right.
if you and Cresselia's really good at setting up trick room. I think the only thing with it is that I'd maybe have wanted to have a better redirection for Cresselia than Electivire, but it's still follow me on something that's not completely frail. So, you know, being able to set that up reasonably well, I like it a lot.
Well, and very importantly, Electivire is immune to Spore and stuff like that, right? So you could just have Vital Spirit redirect all sleep moves into Electivire and
Yeah.
still set up with Cresselia, assuming there's like some slow Spore user. If anyone picked Amoonguss, I
I
actually
don't
don't think
think
anyone did
we
pick
haven't
Amoonguss,
seen
huh?
Amoonguss on this. I think that yeah, I think this team has avoided or this draft avoided Amoonguss completely.
That's crazy.
Um,
In that case, it's useful against who was it earlier with the Gastrodon and like the Jumpluff. Oh, that was Eevee's team, right?
yeah.
So I could see Electivire having some use. I personally don't like Electivire on this team at all. It has Motor Drive, which makes it want to go fast, but
Hmm.
then everything's kind of geared to be slower, and it can only proc Motor Drive with like Iron Hands from itself, at least.
I mean, are
I
you
don't know.
really from what discharge? Are you really running discharge on Iron Hands?
Yeah, right next year, Piloswine for Disquake, but not even.
Yeah,
I, I
that's
just I
that's
don't
not
like the
real. I don't
Electivire.
believe that that's real.
I don't like it, but I mean, it does have Follow Me, so it's a valid pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was what like C tier Electivire. So I mean, it's I
I
think
mean,
it's
but what do I know? I picked fucking Electabuzz.
hey Electabuzz is good. It's I wouldn't call
I think just because
Electabuzz
I wanted
amazing, but
I just wanted an Eviolite user, to be honest with you. Plus,
yeah, I
follow
think
me, very strong.
I think that's fair. But no, I like bulky screens teams. I think they
Hmm.
perform really well in this setting, and I think that this is going to be a team that performs really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um. Anything you wanted to say before we wrap up?
Well, yeah. My personal, let's see, my personal top three teams.
Yeah.
No particular order, just because I think they're all pretty good. I like Eevees.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much going on with that fire water grass plus dinos. It's very cool, very fun.
Yep.
I think this is gonna be a very fun team to run and not a fun team to face. But it does have its ways to be beaten. It's not undefeatable. It's just it might not be fun to face.
Yeah, I agree,
I
I
think
agree with that.
Pikachu's. I
Sorry,
think
go.
Pikachu's is another top three contender. Um, just I don't know. There's something about having that strong of a fantasy core, plus also having Chi Yu in the back. Like, come on, that's
Yeah.
insanity. This is a
Chi-Yu,
very scary. Sorry.
Chi-Yu Fluttermane, like Tetris did that thing where oh you're only allowed to draft one of these really broken combos, and Chi-Yu Fluttermane absolutely deserves to be on that. I think that
110%.
it's Chi-Yu in general. I think is extremely underrated. Or I wouldn't say underrated, but I think
Underutilized.
underutilized. Yeah, that's a much better term for it. I think that it definitely it's one of those things that forces you to build in certain ways.
Mm-hmm. Because it
And
changes all the calcs, especially with Flutter on the field.
oh, absolutely. And not just Flutter, but like do you
Drago.
Yeah, Drago, do you want to be taking one of those dragon moves if you're not a steel or a fairy type? I sure don't.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? That it clicks now. Gothorita's for Drago only. If you lead with Gothorita Drago and they fuck up, that's it. They're done. That's yeah.
Yeah,
And then
that's
my third top three would probably be Carney.
yeah, I think I agree with all of those.
It's another just so solid team all across the board.
Yeah, definitely. And we've been we didn't bring this up at the start, but the way we've been thinking about all these teams is sort of like ignoring player quality, and like assuming everyone is the same quality of player, assuming everyone is like giving these teams to 10 different Wolf Glicks and seeing which Wolf Glick
Right.
would win the draft. Um, but like Carney's a great player, Kikuchu is great, and so we're definitely, you know, with that said, they surely have seen things in their teams that even we haven't seen, and so we're excited to see how these turn out. Now, I agree with all of your top three. I think I'd throw Jordan into that list and make it a top four. I think that Jordan's team is really
Mm.
good, and
It
then
is a good team, yeah.
yeah, but I don't disagree with any of those options that you mentioned. Do you have a upset watch team? One of the ones that's not really high up there that you think could cause some super big problems with people who aren't prepared?
I can't emphasize enough how scary Lofus's team is. I think
Mm-hmm.
all rain teams are the scariest teams objectively, just because Urshifu Rapid and Archaludon, or Archaludon, however you want to say it, they're both such strong Pokemon on their own, and then you add rain and they're just so busted.
Yeah.
I am happy I'm not playing against this team. I know I'm playing against yours, and I'm
Yeah.
terrified. So now you know my biggest, scariest weakness. But I just this team, if you look at it wrong, you're just dead. It's terrifying in that sense. It's got a lot of weaknesses, but it doesn't care because it's so hyper offensive.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
And then my
Um,
favorite team, I don't know how well this will perform, but it just has a lot of Pokemon that I personally jive with that I'd pick. My favorite one was the Snowman. I would say his team with the
yeah.
Lando and Gudra and Wims. I personally resonate with so many of these Pokemon. I'm kind of seeing that it's almost a Gen 5 team. But anyways,
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
I really
One,
I
two,
really love
three,
this team.
four, five. Yeah, five different Gen 5 mods, and
Pretty crazy.
yeah, it's pretty good. I'm curious about the Snowman's Tentacruel because I was thinking about grabbing that one and then decided against it after I ran a few calcs and I realized, oh wow, Tentacruel really does only have 80 base special attack. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's fast and it gets some fun support options, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it does. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I would have actually you asked for favorite team and you asked for most upset possible team. I would have said the same two teams but reversed. I think that Snowman's definitely has the capability to upset, and then Lofus's I think might be my favorite, um, other than the top ones that we picked.
Totally
Um,
fair.
yeah, and maybe that's just because we're both running Rain, but
I was gonna say,
yeah.
rain minds think alike, huh?
All right. Well, thank you so much. Unless you have some final closing thoughts, I think we can wrap it up there.
No, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm excited to see what everyone's thoughts are.
Yeah.
I like this draft a lot. It seems
Hmm.
like there's a lot of good team building going on here, so I'm excited to watch all the videos from Draft B, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to the season. I think there's some really good stuff all around the entire league. So, thank you so much for listening to us ramble about this, and we'll
Hmm.
see you on the flip side.
Cool. See ya.